Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel TrendsJournalist, where we bring you the most relevant career insights, interview preparation strategies, and real-world knowledge to help you stay ahead in your professional journey. Today's video is extremely special because we are covering 100 SQL interview questions that are most frequently asked by interviewers across companies. Joining me today is Suzain, a seasoned data professional with deep experience in SQL, database design, and interview mentoring. Hi, Suzain. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Inderjeet. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. SQL interviews can feel overwhelming, but with the right understanding and mindset, anyone can crack them confidently.
Let's begin with the basics. What is SQL and why is it so important?
SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It is a standard language used to interact with relational databases. SQL allows users to retrieve data, insert new records, update existing information, and delete unwanted data. Almost every business application today relies on SQL at some level, whether it's finance, healthcare, logistics, or e-commerce. Interviewers expect candidates to not only know SQL syntax, but also understand how SQL supports business operations and decision-making.
Very clear explanation. Now tell us, why is SQL considered a must-have skill in the tech industry?
SQL is considered essential because data is the backbone of modern businesses. Companies store massive amounts of data, and SQL is the primary tool used to access and analyze that data. Even roles that are not purely technical, like business analysts or managers, often require SQL knowledge. Interviewers value SQL because it shows that a candidate can work directly with data, solve real problems, and support data-driven decisions effectively.
What are the different types of SQL commands?
SQL commands are categorized based on their functionality. DDL commands like create, alter, and drop define database structures. DML commands such as insert, update, and delete manage data inside tables. DQL mainly includes select, which retrieves data. DCL commands like grant and revoke handle permissions, while TCL commands such as commit and rollback manage transactions. Interviewers often test whether candidates understand when to use which category.
One very common interview question is the difference between delete, truncate, and drop. Can you explain that?
Delete removes specific records and can be rolled back if used inside a transaction. Truncate removes all records quickly, but cannot be rolled back and resets identity columns. Drop completely removes the table structure along with its data. Interviewers often look for transaction behavior here, so mentioning rollback capability and logging differences can really strengthen your answer.
Excellent. Now let's talk about keys. What is a primary key?
A primary key uniquely identifies each record in a table. It does not allow null values and must be unique. Primary keys ensure data integrity and help databases retrieve records efficiently using indexes. A table can have only one primary key, though it may consist of multiple columns, known as a composite key. Interviewers often expect candidates to explain both logical and performance benefits of primary keys.
And what about a foreign key?
A foreign key establishes a relationship between two tables by referencing the primary key of another table. It ensures referential integrity, meaning that invalid or unrelated data cannot be inserted. Foreign keys are essential in normalized databases and help maintain consistent relationships between data entities. Interviewers usually test understanding by asking real-world relationship examples.
Great, let's move to joins. What are joins in SQL?
Joins are used to combine rows from two or more tables based on a related column. Common joins include inner join, left join, right join, and full join. Joins help retrieve meaningful information from normalized databases. Interviewers expect candidates to clearly explain joins using simple examples, as joins are heavily used in real-world SQL queries.
Can you explain inner join in simple terms?
Inner join returns only the records that have matching values in both tables. If there is no match, the record is excluded from the result set. This join is commonly used when you want only confirmed relationships, such as customers who have placed orders. Interviewers often test inner join understanding before moving to advanced joins.
How is left join different from inner join?
Left join returns all records from the left table and matching records from the right table. If no match exists, null values are returned for the right table columns. This join is very useful for identifying missing data, such as customers who have not made any purchases. Interviewers like candidates who can explain practical use cases clearly.
That's very practical. Now tell us, what is normalization?
Normalization is the process of organizing database tables to reduce redundancy and improve data integrity. It involves breaking large tables into smaller, related tables and applying normal forms like first, second, and third normal form. Normalization ensures efficient storage and avoids anomalies during data insertion, update, or deletion. Interviewers often expect candidates to explain why normalization matters, not just definitions.
Excellent explanation. Let's continue. What is denormalization and when should it be used?
Denormalization is the process of combining tables to improve query performance by reducing joins. It is often used in reporting or data warehousing scenarios where read performance is more important than data redundancy. While normalization improves consistency, denormalization improves speed. Interviewers usually look for balanced answers that show you understand trade-offs.
Great explanation. Let's move ahead. What is an index in SQL?
An index is a database object used to improve the speed of data retrieval operations on a table. It works similar to an index in a book, allowing the database to locate rows faster without scanning the entire table. Indexes significantly improve select query performance, especially on large datasets. However, they can slightly slow down insert, update, and delete operations, so interviewers expect candidates to understand when indexing is beneficial and when it should be avoided.
That's important for performance. What are the different types of indexes?
There are several types of indexes, such as clustered, non-clustered, unique composite, and full-text indexes. A clustered index determines the physical order of data in a table, while a non-clustered index creates a separate structure for faster lookup. Unique indexes enforce uniqueness. Interviewers often focus on clustered versus non-clustered indexes, so understanding their behavior and use cases is critical.
Very useful. Now, what is the difference between where and having?
Where filters rows before grouping, while having filters groups after aggregation. Where cannot be used with aggregate functions, but having is specifically designed for that purpose. For example, where filters individual records, whereas having filters results after group by. Interviewers often test this concept because many candidates confuse the execution order of SQL clauses.
That's a common confusion indeed. What is group by used for?
Group by is used to group rows that share the same values in specified columns. It is commonly used with aggregate functions like count, sum, AVG, min, and max. Group by helps generate summarized reports, such as total sales per region or department. Interviewers expect candidates to understand real-world reporting scenarios where group by is applied.
Excellent. Now tell us, what are aggregate functions?
Aggregate functions perform calculations on multiple rows and return a single value. Common aggregate functions include count, sum, AVG, min, and max. They are frequently used in reporting and analytics queries. Interviewers often expect candidates to combine aggregate functions correctly with group by and having, as this reflects real-world SQL usage.
Let's talk about null values. How does SQL handle nulls?
Null represents missing or unknown data in SQL. It is not equal to 0 or an empty string. Comparisons with null using standard operators return unknown results, so special handling like isNull or isNotNull is required. Interviewers frequently test null behavior because improper handling can lead to incorrect query results in production systems.
That's very important. What is the difference between count and count column?
Count counts all rows including those with null values, while count column counts only non-null values in that column. Count is generally faster because it doesn't evaluate column values. Interviewers often ask this question to test understanding of performance and null handling in SQL queries.
Good clarity. What is a view in SQL?
A view is a virtual table created using a select query. It does not store data itself, but displays data dynamically from underlying tables. Views are used to simplify complex queries, improve security by restricting column access, and maintain consistency. Interviewers often ask about views to understand how candidates manage abstraction and security in databases.
And what is the difference between a view and a table?
A table physically stores data, whereas a view only stores the query definition. Changes in underlying tables are automatically reflected in views. Tables consume storage space, but views do not. Interviewers often test this to check whether candidates understand logical versus physical database objects.
Great explanation. Now tell us, what is a stored procedure?
A stored procedure is a precompiled collection of SQL statements stored in the database. It improves performance, enhances security, and promotes code reuse. Stored procedures are widely used in enterprise applications to encapsulate business logic. Interviewers expect candidates to explain why stored procedures are preferred over ad hoc queries in production environments.
Let's continue. What is a function in SQL?
A function in SQL is a predefined or user-defined routine that performs a specific operation and returns a value. Functions can be scalar, returning a single value, or table-valued, returning a result set. Common built-in functions include string, date, and aggregate functions. Interviewers expect candidates to understand when to use functions to simplify queries and improve readability, while also being mindful that excessive function use in where clauses can affect performance.
That's clear. What is the difference between a stored procedure and a function?
The main difference is that a stored procedure can return multiple result sets and perform transactional operations like insert or update, while a function must return a value and cannot modify database state in most systems. Functions are often used in select statements, whereas stored procedures are executed independently. Interviewers usually check whether candidates understand usage restrictions and performance implications.
Very important distinction. What is a trigger in SQL?
A trigger is a special type of stored procedure that automatically executes in response to specific events like insert, update, or delete on a table. Triggers are commonly used for auditing, enforcing business rules, or maintaining logs. Interviewers often caution against overusing triggers, so mentioning that they should be used carefully for maintainability shows practical awareness.
Good point. Now tell us, what is a transaction in SQL?
A transaction is a sequence of operations executed as a single unit of work. Transactions follow the ACID properties: atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. Either all operations succeed or none do. Transactions are crucial in financial and enterprise systems to maintain data accuracy. Interviewers often expect candidates to explain real-life examples like bank transfers.
Since you mentioned ACID, can you explain ACID properties?
ACID stands for atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. Atomicity ensures all or nothing execution, consistency ensures data validity, isolation ensures concurrent transactions don't interfere, and durability ensures committed data is saved permanently. Interviewers value candidates who can connect ACID concepts to real-world reliability and data safety.
Excellent. What is a subquery?
A subquery is a query nested inside another query. It can be used in select, where, or from clauses. Subqueries help break complex logic into smaller parts. However, interviewers often advise understanding when joins are more efficient than subqueries, as performance considerations are important in large datasets.
That's practical advice. What is a correlated subquery?
A correlated subquery depends on the outer query for its values and executes once for each row processed by the outer query. While powerful, correlated subqueries can be performance-intensive. Interviewers often test this concept to see if candidates understand execution behavior and optimization strategies.
Good explanation. Now, what is union in SQL?
Union combines the result sets of two or more select queries and removes duplicate rows. All queries must have the same number of columns and compatible data types. Interviewers often ask about union all as well, so mentioning that union all includes duplicates and performs faster is a strong addition.
Exactly. So what is the difference between union and union all?
Union removes duplicate records, while union all includes all records, including duplicates. Union all is faster because it does not perform duplicate checks. Interviewers usually want candidates to explain performance trade-offs and when to use each option.
Very useful. Let's talk about constraints. What are constraints in SQL?
Constraints are rules applied to table columns to enforce data integrity. Common constraints include not null, unique, primary key, foreign key, check, and default. Constraints ensure valid and consistent data. Interviewers often test whether candidates understand how constraints prevent incorrect data entry at the database level.
Nicely explained. What is the check constraint?
The check constraint ensures that column values meet a specific condition. For example, it can restrict salary values to be greater than 0. Check constraints help enforce business rules directly within the database. Interviewers appreciate candidates who highlight database-level validation instead of relying only on application logic.
That's a strong point. We're covering excellent ground here. Let's move ahead. What is a unique constraint in SQL?
A unique constraint ensures that all values in a column or a group of columns are different from each other. Unlike a primary key, a unique constraint can allow one null value depending on the database system. It is commonly used for fields like email IDs or employee codes. Interviewers expect candidates to explain how unique helps maintain data integrity without enforcing table identity.
Good clarification. What is the default constraint?
The default constraint assigns a predefined value to a column when no value is provided during insertion. This helps avoid null values and ensures consistent data entry, for example, setting a default status as active. Interviewers often appreciate candidates who explain how default simplifies application logic by handling missing values at the database level.
That's practical. Now tell us, what is a composite key?
A composite key is a primary key made up of two or more columns that together uniquely identify a record. It is used when a single column is not sufficient to ensure uniqueness. Interviewers often test this concept with examples like order ID and product ID combinations. So explaining real-world scenarios helps strengthen the answer.
Very useful. What is a candidate key?
A candidate key is any column or combination of columns that can uniquely identify rows in a table. From all candidate keys, one is selected as the primary key. Interviewers usually ask this to test understanding of database design concepts and how keys are chosen logically rather than arbitrarily.
Good explanation. What is an alternate key?
An alternate key is a candidate key that is not chosen as the primary key. It still maintains uniqueness but serves as an alternative identifier. Interviewers often look for clarity in terminology, so distinguishing between candidate, primary, and alternate keys clearly is important.
Excellent. Now let's discuss performance. What is query optimization?
Query optimization is the process of improving SQL query performance by reducing execution time and resource usage. This can involve indexing, rewriting queries, avoiding unnecessary columns, and using proper joins. Interviewers often expect candidates to mention execution plans and real-world optimization techniques used in production environments.
That's critical. What is an execution plan?
An execution plan shows how the database engine executes a query, including table scans, index usage, joins, and filtering methods. It helps identify performance bottlenecks. Interviewers often ask this to check whether candidates know how to diagnose slow queries rather than guessing optimizations blindly.
Very insightful. What is a clustered index?
A clustered index defines the physical order of data in a table. Because data is stored according to the clustered index, only one clustered index can exist per table. It significantly improves range-based queries. Interviewers often ask this to test understanding of physical storage concepts.
And what is a non-clustered index?
A non-clustered index creates a separate structure that stores pointers to the actual data rows. A table can have multiple non-clustered indexes. These indexes are useful for frequently searched columns. Interviewers usually expect candidates to explain both benefits and overhead clearly.
Good clarity again. What is a self-join?
A self-join is when a table is joined with itself using aliases. It is commonly used for hierarchical data, such as employee-manager relationships. Interviewers often test this concept to check whether candidates can think creatively using joins beyond simple table relationships.
That's a good one. What is the difference between char and varchar?
Char is a fixed-length data type, while varchar is variable length. Char is faster for fixed-size data, but wastes space if values are shorter. Varchar saves storage, but may have slightly higher overhead. Interviewers expect candidates to explain storage and performance implications, not just syntax differences.
Excellent explanation. We're covering a lot of valuable ground.
Absolutely, Inderjeet. These questions are very commonly asked, and clarity here builds a strong interview foundation.
Let's continue. What is the difference between varchar and nvarchar?
Varchar stores non-Unicode characters and uses less storage, while nvarchar stores Unicode characters and supports multiple languages. Nvarchar consumes more space because it uses 2 bytes per character. Interviewers often expect candidates to explain use cases, such as using nvarchar for multilingual applications and varchar for English-only systems, along with performance and storage considerations.
That's very relevant. What is a CTE in SQL?
A CTE, or Common Table Expression, is a temporary result set defined using the with clause. It improves query readability and is often used for recursive queries and complex logic. CTEs do not store data physically. Interviewers like candidates who explain how CTEs make queries easier to maintain compared to nested subqueries.
Good explanation. What is a recursive CTE?
A recursive CTE is used to handle hierarchical or tree-structured data, such as employee-manager relationships. It repeatedly executes itself until a termination condition is met. Interviewers often test recursive CTEs to evaluate problem-solving skills and understanding of advanced SQL logic.
That's advanced indeed. What is pagination in SQL?
Pagination is the process of retrieving data in smaller chunks instead of loading all records at once. It improves performance and user experience in applications. Techniques include offset fetch, limit, or row number. Interviewers often ask this to test understanding of real-world application requirements and performance optimization.
Very practical. What is the row number function?
Row number assigns a unique sequential number to each row in a result set based on an order by clause. It is commonly used for pagination and ranking scenarios. Interviewers often test whether candidates understand window functions and how row number differs from rank and dense rank.
Good segue. What is the difference between row number, rank, and dense rank?
Row number assigns unique numbers without gaps. Rank assigns the same rank to duplicate values but leaves gaps. Dense rank also assigns the same rank to duplicates but does not leave gaps. Interviewers usually expect candidates to explain ranking behavior clearly using examples.
Excellent. What are window functions in SQL?
Window functions perform calculations across a set of rows related to the current row without collapsing the result set. They are used for ranking, running totals, and analytics. Interviewers value candidates who understand how window functions simplify complex analytical queries compared to traditional grouping.
That's very useful. What is the exists operator?
Exists checks whether a subquery returns any rows. It returns true if at least one record exists. Exists is often faster than in for large data sets. Interviewers often test this to see if candidates understand performance differences between similar-looking operators.
Good point. What is the IN operator?
In is used to match a value against a list of values or subquery results. While easy to use, IN can perform poorly with large result sets. Interviewers expect candidates to mention when exists or joins may be better alternatives for performance.
That's insightful. What is the between operator?
Between filters values within a specified inclusive range. It works with numbers, dates, and text. Interviewers often expect candidates to clarify that between includes both boundary values, which can cause logical errors if misunderstood.
Very important detail. What is a temporary table?
A temporary table stores intermediate results for session level or query level usage. It helps simplify complex queries and improve performance. Interviewers often expect candidates to explain scope differences between local and global temporary tables.
Excellent explanation. We're deep into advanced SQL now.
Yes, Inderjeet. These concepts are frequently tested in senior-level SQL interviews and real-world problem-solving rounds.
Let's move forward. What is the difference between a temporary table and a table variable?
A temporary table is created using create table or select into and is stored in TempDB with statistics and indexes support. A table variable is declared like a variable and has limited scope and optimization. Temporary tables are better for large datasets, while table variables are suitable for small data. Interviewers expect candidates to explain performance implications and real-world usage scenarios.
That's an important comparison. What is the distinct keyword used for?
Distinct removes duplicate rows from the result set. It is commonly used in select queries when unique values are required. However, distinct can impact performance on large datasets because it requires sorting or hashing. Interviewers often test whether candidates understand when distinct is necessary and when better data modeling can avoid duplicates altogether.
Good insight. What is the like operator?
Like is used for pattern matching, using wildcards such as %, and underscore. It is commonly used in search functionality. Interviewers expect candidates to explain wildcard behavior and mention that leading wildcards can prevent index usage, which affects performance.
Performance again plays a role. What is the difference between getDate and current timestamp?
Both getDate and current timestamp return the current date and time of the database server. GetDate is SQL Server specific, while current timestamp is ANSI SQL standard. Interviewers often test this to see whether candidates understand portability and standards compliance.
That's useful. What is the cast function?
Cast is used to convert one data type into another explicitly. It follows ANSI SQL standards. Interviewers often expect candidates to know when explicit conversion is required to avoid runtime errors and incorrect comparisons, especially when working with dates and numeric values.
How is cast different from convert?
Cast is standard SQL, while convert is database specific and provides additional formatting options. Convert allows style parameters for date formatting. Interviewers usually expect candidates to mention portability when choosing cast over convert.
Good clarity. What is a deadlock in SQL?
A deadlock occurs when two or more transactions block each other permanently by holding resources the other needs. Databases automatically detect and resolve deadlocks by rolling back one transaction. Interviewers expect candidates to explain prevention techniques like consistent access order and shorter transactions.
That's critical for production systems. What is locking in SQL?
Locking is a mechanism used to maintain data consistency during concurrent access. Locks prevent conflicts between transactions. Interviewers often test understanding of lock types such as shared, exclusive, and update locks, and how improper locking can lead to performance issues.
That leads to concurrency. What is isolation level?
Isolation levels control how transactions interact with each other. Common levels include read uncommitted, read committed, repeatable read, and serializable. Interviewers expect candidates to explain trade-offs between data accuracy and performance at different isolation levels.
Excellent. What is dirty read?
A dirty read occurs when a transaction reads uncommitted data from another transaction. It can lead to incorrect results if the transaction rolls back. Interviewers usually test this to see if candidates understand isolation levels and consistency risks.
Very important concept. What is a phantom read?
A phantom read happens when a transaction reads a set of rows twice and sees different results due to inserts by another transaction. Interviewers often expect candidates to relate this to higher isolation levels like serializable.
Great explanation. We're almost at the advanced concurrency concepts.
Yes, Inderjeet, these topics often differentiate average candidates from strong database professionals.
Absolutely. Let's continue and move closer to wrapping up our 100 SQL interview questions. Let's continue. What is normalization anomaly?
Normalization anomalies are problems that occur in poorly designed tables, such as insertion, update, and deletion anomalies. An insertion anomaly happens when certain data cannot be added without other data. An update anomaly occurs when data inconsistency appears due to partial updates. A deletion anomaly happens when deleting one record unintentionally removes important data. Interviewers expect candidates to explain how normalization helps prevent these issues.
That's a fundamental concept. What is denormalization anomaly?
Denormalization anomalies occur when redundant data causes inconsistency across tables. Because denormalization duplicates data to improve performance, updates must be handled carefully. If one copy is updated and another is not, data becomes inconsistent. Interviewers usually look for balanced answers explaining that denormalization should be applied selectively and with strong control mechanisms.
Very practical. What is a surrogate key?
A surrogate key is an artificially generated unique identifier, such as an auto-increment ID, that has no business meaning. It simplifies indexing and joins and avoids dependency on business logic. Interviewers often expect candidates to explain why surrogate keys are preferred over natural keys in large enterprise systems.
Good explanation. What is a natural key?
A natural key is a column or combination of columns that naturally identifies a record, such as an email ID or government ID number. While natural keys have business meaning, they may change over time, which can cause maintenance issues. Interviewers often compare natural and surrogate keys to test database design understanding.
That comparison is often asked. What is data integrity?
Data integrity ensures accuracy, consistency, and reliability of data throughout its lifecycle. It is maintained using constraints, keys, and validation rules. Interviewers often expect candidates to explain entity integrity, referential integrity, and domain integrity with examples from real-world systems.
That's very important. What is referential integrity?
Referential integrity ensures that relationships between tables remain consistent. It is enforced using foreign keys, preventing invalid references. For example, an order cannot exist without a valid customer. Interviewers often test this concept because it is critical for maintaining logical relationships in relational databases.
Excellent. What is domain integrity?
Domain integrity ensures that column values fall within a valid range or format. This is enforced using data types, check constraints, and default values. Interviewers often expect candidates to explain how domain integrity prevents invalid data entry at the database level instead of relying only on application-side checks.
Good clarity. What is an alias in SQL?
An alias is a temporary name given to a table or column for readability and simplicity. It is commonly used in complex queries with joins or calculations. Interviewers often expect candidates to show how aliases improve query clarity and reduce ambiguity in multi-table queries.
Very useful. What is the coalesce function?
Coalesce returns the first non-null value from a list of expressions. It is commonly used to handle null values gracefully in queries. Interviewers often prefer coalesce over ISNL because it is ANSI standard and more flexible.
That's good to know. What is the difference between ISNL and coalesce?
ISNL is database specific and accepts only 2 arguments, while coalesce is ANSI standard and supports multiple arguments. Coalesce also determines the return data type differently. Interviewers often test this to check understanding of standards and portability.
Excellent explanation. What is a cursor in SQL?
A cursor allows row-by-row processing of query results. While useful in certain scenarios, cursors are generally slower than set-based operations. Interviewers often expect candidates to mention that cursors should be avoided when possible and replaced with set-based logic for better performance.
Let's proceed further. What is set-based processing in SQL?
Set-based processing means operating on multiple rows of data at once rather than processing one row at a time. SQL is designed to work efficiently with sets of data using select, join, group by, and aggregate functions. Set-based logic is faster, more scalable, and easier to maintain compared to row-by-row approaches like cursors. Interviewers often look for candidates who prefer set-based solutions because they reflect strong SQL fundamentals and performance awareness.
That's very important. What is the difference between set-based processing and cursor-based processing?
Set-based processing handles multiple records in a single operation, while cursor-based processing handles one row at a time. Cursors consume more memory and CPU and are generally slower. Interviewers expect candidates to clearly state that cursors should be used only when absolutely necessary, and that set-based queries are always the preferred approach for performance and scalability.
Excellent. What is a cross-join?
A cross-join returns the Cartesian product of 2 tables, meaning every row from the first table is combined with every row from the second table. This can produce a very large result set. Interviewers often ask this to test awareness of query impact, so mentioning that cross-joins should be used carefully is a strong answer.
Good warning there. What is a full outer join?
A full outer join returns all records from both tables, matching where possible and filling nulls where there is no match. It is useful when you want a complete comparison between 2 datasets. Interviewers often test this concept to check whether candidates understand all join types and their use cases.
That makes sense. What is data redundancy?
Data redundancy refers to storing the same data in multiple places. While sometimes intentional for performance reasons, redundancy increases storage usage and risk of inconsistency. Interviewers often expect candidates to explain how normalization reduces redundancy and when denormalization may intentionally introduce it for reporting or performance needs.
Very clear. What is the difference between OLTP and OLAP systems?
OLTP systems handle daily transactional operations like inserts and updates, while OLAP systems are designed for analytical queries and reporting. OLTP focuses on speed and accuracy, whereas OLAP focuses on complex queries and historical data analysis. Interviewers often test this to understand whether candidates can differentiate operational and analytical database systems.
Good distinction. What is a data warehouse?
A data warehouse is a centralized repository that stores historical data from multiple sources for reporting and analysis. It is optimized for read-heavy operations and complex queries. Interviewers often expect candidates to mention concepts like ETL, star schema, and reporting use cases when explaining data warehouses.
That's useful context. What is ETL?
ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. It is the process of collecting data from source systems, transforming it into a suitable format, and loading it into a target system like a data warehouse. Interviewers often test ETL understanding to evaluate end-to-end data flow knowledge.
Good explanation. What is a star schema?
A star schema is a data warehouse design where a central fact table is connected to multiple dimension tables. It simplifies queries and improves performance. Interviewers often ask this to test understanding of reporting database design rather than transactional systems.
Excellent. What is a snowflake schema?
A snowflake schema is a normalized version of a star schema where dimension tables are further broken down into related tables. It reduces redundancy but increases query complexity. Interviewers often expect candidates to compare star and snowflake schemas and explain trade-offs.
That comparison is very common. What is data consistency?
Data consistency ensures that data remains accurate and uniform across the database. It is maintained through constraints, transactions, and isolation levels. Interviewers often expect candidates to explain how consistency is preserved during concurrent transactions and system failures.
Excellent explanation. We're very close to completing the full set now. Let's move ahead. What is data consistency in transactions?
Data consistency in transactions ensures that the database moves from one valid state to another valid state after a transaction completes. This means all business rules, constraints, and relationships must remain intact. If any operation violates these rules, the transaction should fail and roll back. Interviewers expect candidates to relate consistency to ACID properties and explain how constraints and validations help maintain reliable data.
Very important concept. What is data durability?
Durability ensures that once a transaction is committed, its changes are permanently saved, even in case of system crashes or power failures. Databases achieve durability using transaction logs and recovery mechanisms. Interviewers often look for candidates who understand that durability is critical for systems like banking or billing, where data loss is unacceptable.
Good explanation. What is a save point in SQL?
A save point allows you to create a logical checkpoint within a transaction. You can roll back to a save point without rolling back the entire transaction. This is useful in complex transactions where partial rollback is required. Interviewers appreciate candidates who mention save points as a way to improve transaction control and error handling.
That's practical. What is implicit and explicit transaction?
An implicit transaction is automatically started and committed by the database, while an explicit transaction is controlled by the user using begin, commit, and rollback statements. Interviewers often test this to check understanding of transaction boundaries and manual control over data consistency.
Very useful. What is the difference between delete and drop in terms of logging?
Delete logs each row deletion and can be rolled back, while drop removes the object metadata and data with minimal logging and cannot be rolled back. Interviewers often expect candidates to mention logging behavior and recovery implications when explaining this difference.
That's a strong technical detail. What is a constraint violation?
A constraint violation occurs when data does not meet the rules defined by constraints like primary key, foreign key, unique, or check. The database prevents such operations to maintain integrity. Interviewers often test this concept to see whether candidates understand how databases protect data quality automatically.
Good clarity. What is a metadata in SQL?
Metadata is data about data. It includes table definitions, column data types, indexes, constraints, and relationships. Metadata helps the database engine understand how data is structured. Interviewers often expect candidates to mention system catalogs or information schema when discussing metadata.
Very important. What is information schema?
Information schema is a set of read-only views that provide metadata about database objects like tables, columns, and constraints. It follows ANSI standards and is useful for database analysis and automation. Interviewers like candidates who know how to inspect database structure programmatically.
That's very helpful. What is a data type?
A data type defines the kind of data a column can store, such as integers, strings, or dates. Choosing appropriate data types improves storage efficiency, performance, and data accuracy. Interviewers often test whether candidates understand why correct data type selection matters in real-world systems.
Excellent. What is the difference between numeric and decimal data types?
Numeric and decimal data types store exact numeric values with defined precision and scale. Decimal is commonly used for financial calculations because it avoids rounding errors. Interviewers often expect candidates to mention accuracy and precision when answering this question.
That's critical for finance systems. What is implicit conversion?
Implicit conversion occurs when the database automatically converts one data type to another during an operation. While convenient, it can cause performance issues and unexpected results. Interviewers often expect candidates to recommend explicit conversions for clarity and performance safety.
Let's continue. What is explicit conversion in SQL?
Explicit conversion is when the developer manually converts one data type to another using functions like cast or convert. This gives better control over how data is transformed and avoids unexpected behavior that can occur with implicit conversions. Interviewers often expect candidates to recommend explicit conversion in production queries for clarity, accuracy, and predictable performance, especially when dealing with dates and numeric values.
Good explanation. What is a not null constraint?
The not null constraint ensures that a column cannot contain null values. It is used when a value is mandatory for a record. Interviewers often expect candidates to explain how not null helps enforce data completeness and prevents missing critical information such as IDs, names, or timestamps.
That's straightforward. What is a check constraint used for in real projects?
A check constraint is used to enforce business rules directly at the database level. For example, it can ensure that age is greater than 0 or status values are limited to predefined options. Interviewers appreciate candidates who emphasize that database-level validation reduces dependency on application logic and improves data reliability.
Very practical. What is a database schema?
A schema is a logical container that organizes database objects like tables, views, and procedures. It helps manage permissions and avoid naming conflicts. Interviewers often test this concept to see if candidates understand database organization and security best practices in enterprise environments.
Good. What is the difference between truncate and delete in terms of performance?
Truncate is faster because it removes all rows without logging individual row deletions, while delete logs each row and can be filtered using a where clause. Interviewers often expect candidates to mention that truncate cannot be rolled back and should be used carefully.
Excellent. What is a data mart?
A data mart is a subset of a data warehouse focused on a specific business area like sales or finance. It improves reporting efficiency and user access. Interviewers often test this to check understanding of analytical data structures and reporting systems.
Good explanation. What is indexing overhead?
Indexing overhead refers to the additional cost incurred during insert, update, and delete operations due to index maintenance. While indexes improve read performance, they slow down write operations. Interviewers expect candidates to understand this trade-off clearly.
That's a very real-world concern. What is a covering index?
A covering index includes all columns required by a query, allowing the database to retrieve results directly from the index without accessing the table. This improves performance significantly. Interviewers often ask this to test advanced indexing knowledge.
That's advanced indeed. What is query execution order in SQL?
SQL queries follow a logical execution order, starting from, join, where, group by, having, select, and order by. Understanding this order helps write correct and optimized queries. Interviewers often test this because many logical errors stem from misunderstanding execution sequence.
Very important. What is the difference between where and on in joins?
On defines the join condition, while where filters the final result set. Using where incorrectly can change join behavior, especially in outer joins. Interviewers often test this to see if candidates understand subtle query logic differences.
Excellent. What is query scalability?
Query scalability refers to how well a query performs as data volume increases. Scalable queries use proper indexing, avoid unnecessary complexity, and follow set-based logic. Interviewers often value candidates who think beyond small datasets and consider future growth.
That's a strong concept. What is data validation in SQL?
Data validation ensures that only correct and meaningful data is stored in the database. This is achieved using constraints, triggers, and data types. Interviewers often expect candidates to emphasize database-level validation as a key defense against bad data.
We're almost there. What is audit logging in SQL?
Audit logging tracks changes made to data, such as inserts, updates, and deletes. It is used for compliance, troubleshooting, and accountability. Interviewers often expect candidates to mention triggers or built-in auditing features as common solutions.
Very important for enterprises. What is SQL injection?
SQL injection is a security vulnerability where attackers manipulate queries through user input. It can lead to data breaches and data loss. Interviewers expect candidates to explain prevention techniques like parameterized queries and input validation.
Security is crucial. How can SQL injection be prevented?
SQL injection can be prevented by using prepared statements, parameterized queries, stored procedures, and proper input validation. Avoiding dynamic SQL is also recommended. Interviewers often look for awareness of secure coding practices along with SQL knowledge.
Excellent. What is database backup?
Database backup is the process of creating copies of data to protect against data loss. Backups are essential for disaster recovery and business continuity. Interviewers often expect candidates to mention full, differential, and transaction log backups.
And finally, what is database recovery?
Database recovery restores data from backups after failures like crashes or corruption. Recovery ensures business continuity and data reliability. Interviewers often test this to evaluate understanding of end-to-end database management.
That brings us to the end of our 100 SQL interview questions. Sindhu, this was incredibly insightful.
Thank you, Inderjeet. I truly hope these explanations help viewers gain confidence and crack their SQL interviews successfully.
I'm sure they will. Thank you everyone for watching TrendsJournalist. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends who are preparing for SQL interviews. See you in the next episode.